I'm David Downs with Benton Downs Photography. This is a very quick tutorial on how to use photo merge within Lightroom when wanting to create a panorama on a photo shoot. I've spoken before to my workshop participants about composing for a panoramic shot, and rather than shooting horizontal, turn your camera vertical. It gives you more room as you pan across, and you bring this into Lightroom for merging and stitching together. Having those taller image sizes will give you a little more room when it comes to composition and trying to determine where you want to put the horizon line, is there reflections involved, things of that nature. So what we're going to see here is we've already shot vertical. I'll talk a little bit about the focal length, and that makes an impact on how you go to stitch things together and things of that nature. So we'll get into those. Let's start out by just going into Lightroom, and you'll see here these are images from a recent workshop. We went and shot the Dallas skyline. We were very fortunate to have the river was up, so we had a really good reflective pool to shoot in. And I think we got some great shots out of it. And so this is just a quick edit, a quick run through on how to stitch these together. So here we are in library mode in Lightroom. These are the 5 images, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that I want to stitch together. I've talked a little bit before about import, just that if you want to do a very quick import, during your import of the images, don't apply any auto effects, nothing of that nature. Don't rename them, nothing like that. Bring in all the images that you've taken, filter through and eliminate the ones that you don't want to keep or do any editing to. And that way, when you start applying edits, in particular presets, that goes much quicker. So it's a little bit of a time efficiency tip there on this. Now, one of the things that I found to be very important, we're in the library mode here. If we go over to the develop mode and we look at this image under lens corrections, we can see that the chromatic aberration box is not checked, nor is the profile correction. And both of those are important to have checked when you're going to edit images. I will tell you that through personal experience, without having this chromatic aberration checked, I've got a very large print that I wasn't really happy with. It's a very simple thing to do. So let's talk about how do we apply that to multiple images. So if I click and select these 5 images, down here you will see that I have auto sync turned on. If you click this button here, you can turn it off and you get sync. With auto sync turned on, what happens is any changes I make to this first image that I've selected will be applied automatically to the remaining images that are selected. So I'm going to go ahead and click on chromatic aberration, profile corrections, and now I know that all of these images have that applied to them. Now, one of the things that I think is important, especially with panoramas, is making sure you have the profile correction done. In this particular case, this image, if we look up here, was shot at 52 millimeters. There's not a lot of distortion in a 52 millimeter shot. It's nothing like if I was shooting at 14, shooting very wide, then the distortion is much more pronounced, and the profile correction will adjust a significant amount of that. So I think this is important regardless of what focal length you shot at, but make sure that happens, in particular if you're shooting very wide. The next thing is, there are photographers, and everybody does their thing differently, and that's fine, who would then go in and apply a certain amount of edits to all of these images before they ever stitch them together. I tend to go the other direction. As much as possible, I want the raw image just with these 2 corrections made when I go to stitch it together. There's a chance, however small, that by doing edits, other edits, in particular clarity, sharpening, things of that nature, that I run the risk of the stitch not working as well as it might otherwise. So we're going to leave that together. Very simple. Next step, right click on any of these that are highlighted, go to Photo Merge and Panorama. And it's going to bring up a screen. We see here it's creating a preview for us. And while it's doing that, let's look over here to the upper right. And you can see we have a projection, basically, method. Spherical, cylindrical, or perspective. So let's talk a little bit about these. I'm going to go to spherical, and you can see it's building a preview of a spherical projection. And you can see there's not much difference between that one and cylindrical. If we go to perspective, we'll see that it has a little bit of a more distorted view of that. And let's just talk through for a minute. So what I found typically is that if I'm shooting wide, sometimes spherical is the best way to go, because despite trying to remove the distortion in it, you still have a little bit of a fisheye type look, and you think about being on the inside of a sphere, and that's kind of the way that works. Cylindrical works best if you think about a camera set on a tripod, and this is the way we're typically shooting, unless you're doing multi-row panoramas and have the gear to do that appropriately. You're talking about setting the camera on top of a tripod inside a big cylinder, and then spinning around and just taking images of the inside of that cylinder. And that's essentially what we've done here, and that's why cylindrical typically gives me, for landscape panoramas, it gives me the best results. Perspective, where it works really well, even if you're shooting at 50 or above in terms of focal length, is if you're shooting something and rather than turn vertical and shooting horizontal, instead you're horizontal and you're panning up and taking a series of images vertically. In particular, if you're close to something and like a tall building or something along those lines, that's where I found perspective is the best option for me. It's something that I think you'll have to play around with a little bit. If you typically shoot with one focal length or one lens that you're very comfortable with, and you're shooting in that 35, 40 millimeter up to 70 millimeter range, you're going to find cylindrical probably is 9 times out of 10 going to be your best option. The next thing that you want to look at is boundary warp. And we can see that boundary warp slider right here. And as you move that slider forward, if you notice the white areas in the corners of the image get smaller and smaller. And essentially what's happening is the image is being stretched to fill in those corners. And this works pretty well in a situation like this where we have blue sky essentially all the way across, both the bottom and the top. At the bottom it's water reflection, but works really well there. If you have a situation where your camera wasn't completely level, you may see a lot more white. In particular, like the image may start well up here, but then by the time and at this corner it fits well, but over here you've got a lot of white. Up here you got a lot of white. It means your camera wasn't level when you shot the pano. And if you're shooting handheld, unless you practice it a lot, you'll find that you get a lot more white in the image. If these areas contain very detailed or linear elements, doing boundary warp is probably not going to give you a very good result. So you're going to want to be cautious with this in those scenarios. But here it's very easy for me to just take that to 100 and not worry about it. I will point out though, if we take the boundary warp off and we just click auto crop, it crops the image to eliminate the white. So I'll be honest, I never turn this on. I want full control over whether or not I'm going to, where I'm going to crop this image, because I may in Photoshop choose to use content aware fill to fill in a space that otherwise would have been cropped out by this. So I never turn on auto crop. I leave create a stack on, and I'll show you why for that in a minute. So let's go ahead and just click on merge. It becomes a task. If you look in the upper left, you will see that it is creating a panorama, and it'll create that file, and it will show up now in your film strip down here as an image with these 5, because we clicked create a stack. These 5 images will be underneath. So we'll get the merged file. It'll have a number on it, and what the number is the total of the merged file combined with all of the images that were used to create it. So if you shot 12 images to create the pano, and then you did a merge, you will get a merged image like this one that has this number where it says 6. If you had 12, you would now have 13, because it would be the final image that's created plus the underlying images. You'll also notice the name of the file is 4928-pano.dng. DNG basically means digital negative. No worries there. It's still a raw file with all of the data that you had from all of the other images. And it'll always start the 4928. If you start with the first file in the string of images you're going to merge, that file name number is what will show up on this. So very simple, quick look. The only other things I would point out at this point, the only other things that I would kind of want to mention right here is that the enable profile corrections, you will notice right here, is no longer checked. Even though all of the images were checked, it's no longer checked. Check it again. It will expand that out. Sometimes it adjusts a lot. Sometimes it doesn't adjust at all. The other thing I'll point out, since we're here, is that we do have these ability down here to even control that distortion a little more, a little less. And I have found occasions where this was helpful. It gave me just enough additional little control over the distortion that I was able to make the image really look the way I wanted it to, in particular from a composition standpoint. The vignetting, you will get vignetting when you're shooting wide or when you create panoramas. And this gives you the ability to lighten up those corners a little bit or leave them dark, whatever your preference is at that time. So anyway, very quick tutorial around how to merge these things together, covering a little bit of the information around the photo merge options. Hopefully this was helpful to you, and I'll do another tutorial around the editing of this image for those that were at the workshop and might find that interesting as well. So hope you enjoyed it, got some information out of it. If you thought it was good, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and click the little bell to get the alerts so that we can make sure you get updates as they come out, as I put out more videos. Thanks for watching.